What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to another video on the channel, and this one's going to be a little different than the usual videos I post. I'm going to go over a review and my perspective on Encore's Boston Harbor's poker room, go through all the different areas like game structure, comp rewards, the poker room itself, and all that stuff. For the people who are around the Northeast area that haven't gone yet or are planning to go soon, just giving my perspective and review on what the casino is like so far in the poker room. It's been open for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I've gone a few times, so I figured why not do something like this because it hasn't been done before. If you're looking for hand reviews, they're in the last few minutes of the video. I'm always going to throw some in there, so if you don't want to listen to the review and what I have to say about it, skip the majority of the video and go to the last couple minutes, and I'll be going over some hands that I played for in a short session earlier. But before we get into the video, if you like shirts like this, visit the link in the description below. Pre-flop, more poker designs and stuff like that, and apparel. So definitely go give it a check, and it's great quality, pretty cheap clothes. But anyways, let's go into the little cinematics that I've put together walking around the casino to give you guys a good look as to what it's all about. Give a general overview about the poker room itself. As you've seen, it is gorgeous, it's massive, it's huge, but also just beautiful. I think the room is just really well lit, the tables are gorgeous, and everything about it aesthetically is super pleasing. So the casino itself is also really pretty, but that's besides the point. So in the poker room, there are 88 tables, as a lot of you guys would know. There's plenty of different games and variety to go about. So let's just talk about the no limit hold'em games first, because that's just what I'm more familiar with. So the lowest stakes is 1-3, and there are constantly about 15 to 20 plus games of 1-3 no limit hold'em going on during its peak hours, like just consistently. So there's a huge number of games. It can go all the way up to like 30 plus tables of 1-3 sometimes, which is absolutely insane. There are usually around 10-ish 2-5 tables during its hours. So once again, a whole lot of variety, and there's anywhere between 1 to 5 5-10 tables. And also higher stakes, there are 10-20 no limit hold'em, 25-50, and even up to 50-100 for the high stakes there. So that's pretty cool just to even be there. And honestly, I might just check out and watch the 50-100 or 25-50 games, because that just seems super interesting. There's a PLO, there's 2-2 PLO and 5-5 PLO are the most common, but they might be running bigger PLO games, but those, I think 5-5 is pretty big, honestly, but I'm not too familiar with it. But those are the games offered for PLO. In terms of limit hold'em, there's games from 4-8, 2-4, 3-6 to all the way up to 80-160. So plenty of variety in games like that, from the lowest stakes to higher stakes. And they also offer stud, going from 6-12 to 8-25. So once again, huge variety in terms of stakes. Same thing applies for Omaha 8. There's 4-8 is the lowest limit, and up to the 150-300. The next section I'm going to talk about is the game structure and action of the room. So one thing I did want to mention is that all of the tables here are 9-handed. So it does change the play a little bit to a certain degree. It feels a little more short-handed when there's 1 or 2 people off the table, but just so you know, not the normal 10-person full ring game, it's 9-handed. I'm going to be focusing more on the no limit hold'em side of things because, well, one, that's what I'm familiar with and what I've played in the past, but also I just don't feel comfortable with talking about the PLO, stud, limit, or Omaha games because, one, I just haven't played them, and I know nothing about the game, and 2, I haven't played them, so I just don't feel comfortable with giving my insight on the games. But in terms of the 1-3, which is probably what the majority of people watching my videos play, that or 2-5, the 1-3 is super interesting here. I'm really honestly not a big fan of the game structure. So it's a 100 to 300 min-max buy-in, and you're capped at 100 bigs, which is really restrictive, and I really don't. I mean, if the ones who've seen my videos know that I do not work with 100 big blinds well. That is just not how I play. But because the max buy-in is 300, it plays a little smaller to a certain degree, but there's always great action because at the end of the day, it's almost like a shove fest because you're only playing with 100 bigs. You have premium hands. I mean, the first time opening day that I played 1-3, within the first 30 minutes, there were like 8 all-ins. So, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. People shoving with queens, which I did, but that's beside the point. And everyone really there kind of chases draws and stuff like that. It's normal 1-3. There's a ton of games, like I said, there's around 20 plus during its peak times, and it's pretty crazy. Just so you know, it's a 300 max, which kind of tends to lean people towards the 2-5. I really like the 2-5, and that's what I'm going to be personally playing the most here at Encore. So it's a 200 to 700 max buy-in, which is a little bit better playing with 150 bigs. You get a little more leeway, give or take, to a certain degree. And that extra 200 on top of the 500 helps out a ton. It plays, in my opinion, it plays almost like the 1-2 at MGM Springfield, honestly. It's a little bit bigger than that, obviously, but from my experience, those who've played MGM Springfield, the 2-5 there plays almost very similar, I guess. I'm not going to say identical, but it's fairly similar, 9-handed. And I think it also brings in a lot of lower skilled 1-2 players into playing the 2-5 game, simply because the 1-3 is so restrictive and it plays so small. So for example, I'm a great example of that. I usually play 1-2, but I'm playing 2-5 up here. Just for overall play, it's a little bit bigger, and the action's always pretty good. Even if you're on an indie table, you can always switch to a different one because there's usually 10-ish games going on at 2-5 during the busy hours. So moving forward from 2-5, anything higher like the 5-10s up to the 100, 200 if they have that, but the 50, 100s, anything higher than 2-5 is timed. So I think the payment is $9 per 30 minutes, and that's kind of how that works. So it's no rake, just timed, and it's pretty standard at most casinos. Next, we'll talk about the rewards program and the comps, and more specifically the red card here that I have here. It's super. I like the card itself. I don't know, but we'll talk more about the comps, especially for poker players. So the comps you get is $1 an hour for food, and I think you can use that money for other stuff too. I'm pretty sure. It's not the best thing in the world. I think it can be a whole lot better, especially right now. The food is fairly expensive these first few weeks. I talked to one of the floor people, and he mentioned that they might change the structure of the food pricings and stuff like that. So for example, right now you'd have to pay about like $15 for just a sandwich, and the sandwich itself, no sides or anything. So playing 15 hours to get a sandwich, not really the right trade-off, not the best trade-off, but I think that will change very soon. Ideally, I hope so, because that obviously is just not sustainable in the long run. But besides that, I think that's really the main comps you get with getting the red card. Next to it is in terms of the parking that we'll talk about later, but besides that, with the room comes complimentary drinks. So I think they have the liquor license until 4 a.m. So you get free drinks until 4 a.m. Just play some poker, play some cards. It's a good time. The service time right now is a little on the slower side because it's new and there's always a whole surge of people. So the waitresses and waiters are super busy handling that surge and rush. But when the casino starts to die down in terms of the hype and it's going to be a more, I guess, regulated flow to things, the service shouldn't be too bad of a wait. Honestly, I think it's just that there's a ton of people and they're all pretty new to their jobs, so just cut them some slack. The last but certainly not least segment or area I want to talk about in this casino is the parking and transportation. What was really stressed about before opening is like the parking prices and limited parking spaces and all that stuff, and people using public transportation to get there. From my experience, all those things have been relieved, and you don't really have to worry too much about it. So in terms of paying for parking, they have a parking space. I think it's 3 levels, and it's not too bad. It has a good amount of space. It can definitely fit a good number of people. In terms of paying for parking, it's $22 for 6 hours, and they advertise it for $44 for 24 hours. But if you're a poker player and you play poker for, I think, 2 hours or something like that, using your red card, you get comped, so you just have to pay $1 of comp money. So basically, it's free. And you should be good to go. I'm not necessarily sure of the steps like that, but it's all going to be figured out. You get a voucher, and you should be good to go if you play poker. That's strictly for poker players, people who play outside, like blackjack and the tables or slots. I think that's a different story. I don't know a whole lot about that. But for poker players specifically, we only pay $1 for the whole day to park there, which is really nice. In terms of the space itself, though, I will say this. I really suggest you guys to like schedule your times of when to go, schedule your sessions, schedule and have like a real plan as to when you want to show up and avoid the rush hour times, because you'll be driving you'll be driving through Boston and you'll be hitting Boston traffic, people going in and out of work, all that stuff. Definitely getting out of work is an issue, so try to avoid the times like around 4 o'clock. 4 to 6 is when you really want to avoid getting there. So that's what I'm doing. I usually go during the day just to avoid the traffic, and also with the parking lot that they have, or the parking garage, it is limited to a certain degree. So there are huge rushes right now, especially for the first month, I'd say, huge rushes during the night. And honestly, I've seen the parking lot garage get super full, and it's a super struggle to find a parking space when you get there around 7 or 8 o'clock. I've just seen all 3 levels of the space get super full. So my opinion, get there earlier, try to avoid the rush hour times. I suggest you guys going around like 1, 2, 3 o'clock, and anything after that, it kind of starts being a hassle, unless you're on the weekend, of course. But weekend times, anytime after 7 or 8 is when it gets really jammed and the rush really starts getting in. So try to get there early, get a spot, avoid the traffic. That is definitely my go-to since I'm from the area. So these are the 4 areas of the poker room that I really wanted to hammer home and talk about, because I think that those are not only really important, but also just wanted to make this video in a concise and comprehensive way. Going over some general stuff and also like the parking and transportation, it is super important to definitely know, because you don't want to have a bad time just getting there in the casino to begin with. So hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if I missed anything or any areas of the poker room that you want me to go over. I'll happily make a second video or just answer your comments down below as well, answer any questions you may have. But let's go into the hands that I played in the really short session, and yeah, let's do it. We hop into a 2-5 game over at Encore Boston Harbor, and the first hand that we get involved in this short session, we have King 6 of clubs in the big blind with about 650 in our stack. There's 4 limpers to the player to my right, the small blind, who ends up raising it up to $25. With $5 committed and 20 more to me and a bunch of other people left to act who could potentially just flat this spot, I decided to call, widening up my range a little bit in position of the pre-flop raiser, and 2 of the limpers call. So we're going to go 4 ways to a flop of King 10-7, 2 spades out there. The small blind, first to act, he leads out $45. With a king in my hand and top pair in this spot, I didn't really play King 6 suited to full top pair, so I call. And I thought about even raising for a little bit too, but I decided to just flat, and the late position player flat as well. So we're going to go 3 ways to the turn, which is the Jack of Diamonds. Pretty interesting card here, because it brings in the backdoor flush draw along with making the board a lot more connected, bringing in some gutter balls, and really bringing in a lot of 2-pair combos too. So small blind once again fires 130. Really interesting spot with top pair. With another player left to act behind me, I really don't feel too comfortable with making this call. I think sometimes I can just like call along here and see a river if it was heads up, but having him firing 2 barrels into a multi-way pot, I just feel like I have to give this up. So I fold, and the late position player folds as well. So probably a good fold, like 9 times out of 10. But here I just didn't really want to let it go, but it is what it is. Next hand here, I have King Jack offsuit in the cutoff. There's 2 limpers. I raise it up to $25, and the early position player who limped calls. So let's go heads up to a flop of 4-5-5, 2 clubs. Super terrible board for me, obviously, but I have all the overcards, and he checks. I see bet $30, and he quickly makes the call. Turn is the Ace of Diamonds, and he is first to act. It ends up actually leading out $55. I'm really not entirely sure what to make of it. He's not really a player that in my time playing with him would bluff in this spot, but honestly, sometimes I really just felt like raising here just to rep that ace, but it looked like a protected bet, but really more so like an ace-high flush draw trying to get value. So I lay it down, and we move on to the next one. Last hand we'll go over, I have Ace-3 of hearts in the big blind with 600 in my stack. There's 2 limpers to the button player who raises it up to $20. Actions onto me. I decide to 3-bet my suited aces here out of position to $60. It folds all the way back to him, and he makes the call. So heads up to a flop, and I'm probably going to be barreling on a lot of runouts, especially in the 3-bet pot out of position. So flop comes deuce, 6, 7, 2 hearts. Flopping the nut flush draw and a bunch of backdoor straight draws, I guess. I lead out for $80 in this spot. He thinks for a little bit and makes the call, hoping to improve on the turn, and just going to continue barreling because I don't think he could potentially connect on this board too often. Turn is the 5 of clubs, so got a gutter ball to go along with my nut flush draw and my over, so I'm going to fire again for 175. He doesn't really think for a whole lot before jamming and covering me. So basically, it's 300 more to me. That's all I have left in my stack. And at this point, the pot has really ballooned up. And right now, it's a 3-1 to a call. And with the nut flush draw and picking up a little bit more equity with the gutter ball and my over, which I don't think is really good at this spot anymore, I think I just have to call off the rest of my stack here, given really just the right odds to call, or at least break even odds to call. So that's what I do. I toss in the chip, I make the call. The river is the queen of diamonds, so we brick out on everything. We have ace high here. He shows pocket sixes for middle set, or flop to middle set, and we lose that one. I just wanted to throw this in there because, well, we got stacks there on a pretty big pot, but looking back, like I said, I got the right odds to call, and I was okay with it to a certain degree. Really didn't feel like gambling that much money in, but we were kind of forced in that situation. That's how that session went, super quick. Just a couple hands to report to you guys, and I really couldn't leave you guys hanging without going over some sort of hands, so this was really good footage to go through since I had the Encore review, and also, you know, just throwing some hands there because I can't make a video without going over a hand review or two. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you guys did by leaving a like, thumbs up on the video. I wish I could throw in some Encore footage, but I don't need to belabor this topic anymore, but I can't. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. I appreciate all the support on my channel so far, and let's get to 5K, man. Let's do this.